Fire Call, the fire safety show with Division Chief Jim Sideras.
Hi, my name is Division Chief Jim Sideras, and you are watching Fire Call from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, home of one of the best fire departments in the country. And we're going to take you behind the scenes, go to some fires, hang out with some crews, and answer a ton of questions. And if we answer your question, you're going to get a sassy Sioux Falls Fire Rescue t-shirt. But only if you go to our website and answer all the questions we ask you. We'll send you a t-shirt. And we also do some shout-outs. Now, our shout-outs are to fire departments from around the world that watch us. So here's the first shout-out. First shout-out is from Eric. Eric lives in Pelican Rapids, Minnesota, and he wants a shout-out to the Pelican Rapids Fire Department. Pelican Rapids, Minnesota. Glad you're watching, Eric. And this is one of our further away folks. This is from Phil, and Phil wants a shout-out to the Narwarren Fire Brigade in Narwarren, South Victoria, Australia. Holy smokes, we got some watchers from around the world. Now we got some questions about the show. So here's going to be the first question. And to answer those questions, I'm going to have Rich Murphy on. Now, Rich Murphy is, you are the cameraman. And who's the producer?
That'd be myself.
And who's the editor?
That'd be myself.
And who is the production assistant?
You?
Yeah.
You help me carry some stuff.
Okay, Rich. Rich does everything. Here's some questions.
Sure.
First one is, this is from Alan. Alan lives in Paynesville, Ohio. And he wants to say, oh, this is pandering. How did you come up with such a wonderful, great, intelligent
I don't think it says all that.
No, it doesn't, but I was just adding there.
Okay.
How did you come up with the idea for such a wonderful show? Any ideas?
It was your idea, actually.
Well,
of course.
It was a good idea.
It was a great idea.
It was one of those off-the-wall ideas.
It was a way to explain to, it was actually at first kind of focused towards, we thought about focusing more towards kids originally. Obviously this has expanded over the years that we've done this. We're in our 4th season now. And I mean, it was just an idea that you had that we could get a 30-minute show out there, get some of the ideas, tactics,
Sure. Well,
questions that people had.
We want to recruit too, and this is a way of broadening our net of people. So I think it's working.
4 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, geez, it just seems like yesterday.
I know.
Well, no, it doesn't, because it used to be a lot of ahs. This is a question from Brian. Brian lives in Bismarck, North Dakota. He wants to know, where does the funding come for the show?
Basically, there is no funding. I mean, this is...
We have no funding, no budget. We do have a camera.
We have a camera, and this is the entire crew right here. Yeah. So, no, the funding is cable channel 16, CityLink, is through the City of Sioux Falls, and this is just another show that we put on. We put on dozens, produce dozens of shows.
And people can watch those shows if they go to
www.siouxfalls.org/fire.
Or Channel 16 to watch the other shows.
Absolutely, yep. So yeah, I mean, there's dozens of shows that we have out there, and this is just another one that we produce. So there's no federal funding, there's no grants that we get. This is just
our hard work and dedication.
Yep, absolutely. Got another couple of questions here. A couple of people wanted to know about the song that we use. Sebastian from Montreal, Canada, and Neil from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, right here in town. Just wanted to know about what song do we use at the beginning of the show. And of course, it's very familiar to people that watch the TV show Rescue Me on the FX channel. It's the Von Bondies with "Come On, Come On." Use a little bit of a sample for that for the opening of the Fire Call here too. It was one that I had heard before Rescue Me ever came out, but it seemed good to kind of keep the
it works pretty
firefighters
good
and stuff, and people that watch the show understand it. So
yeah, it works.
It does. It's a great song.
Okay, well, back to the show. Okay. Thanks, Rich.
We're at the second alarm apartment house fire, and this is Scott Anderson. Scott was one of the first crews in with Rescue 5. So when you got here, what did you have? What did you see?
Well, when we showed up, it came in as smoke on the first floor. We arrived on scene. We saw smoke coming out of the eaves on the Bravo Charlie side.
Okay, Bravo Charlie would be the back corner.
The back corner of the house, yep.
And that was an apartment?
This is an apartment complex. It was a house built into an apartment complex, which makes it a little more difficult fire to fight. So my captain and myself went around the back side, saw smoke coming from the eaves and from the door on the Charlie side. Engine 1 pulled a line for us onto the Charlie Bravo side. Myself, my captain, and firefighter Dustin Lukey on Engine 1 entered the structure. Upon entering the structure, there was heavy smoke.
You have a lot of fire in there, a lot of heat?
Not a lot of fire, a lot of smoke and a lot of heat. So we hit our knees, did a right-hand search, and with some ventilation help from other crews, they flared the fire up so we could see it, and we did some fire extinguishment overhaul.
Fire got in the walls, basically. Another balloon frame construction we're learning now, and you see it's all the way up into the eaves. How long were you inside before you had to pull out when you realized you couldn't make it?
We were inside for 20 minutes, give or take 5 minutes, and the reason we pulled out is our air tank, the alarm bell was sounding. We had the fire extinguished in that apartment itself. We opened up some walls, and you could see the fire extending through the walls up to the attic through the copper piping.
Sure.
And then the insulation was also burning in the walls.
And again, this is someone trying to thaw their pipes with a torch. Start those copper pipes, spread the heat.
Yep, the heat was it's called conduction, which it heats the metal and it goes up in a vertical rise. The heat itself is from the pipes. So.
Sounds like a test question. Well, thanks a lot, Scotty. I'm with Corky Miles, and Corky Miles is our operations chief for Sioux Falls Fire Rescue. And we're going to talk about this fire. Now, this is another one of these balloon frame construction homes that was rehabbed into an apartment complex. Why are these harder to fight, Corky?
Well, this particular one appears to have been added on it at one time or another. Balloon frame construction had fire in areas that we were not able to get to.
Like where?
We had fire, for instance, they were in a laundry room on the main floor and they had fire coming up from underneath and they weren't able to get to that. Obviously, anytime we've got fire underneath, I've got a concern about putting firefighters on top of the floor and couldn't do that. Went to a defensive mode. Been flowing a lot of water.
When we say defensive, so for people that don't know what a defensive mode is.
Defensive mode is when we pull everybody outside of the structure. Okay. We're no longer doing offensive attack inside the structure. Okay. We've gone to a defensive attack. When we do that, one of our big concerns is the exposures on either side of the fire building, and working to protect those. And also at the same time, even though you're defensive, you're still trying to put the fire out.
Sure. What are some of the other problems when you have a building that's been changed from its original structure, like this one? What other problems occur when that kind of thing happens?
Well, any time something's been added on to, especially if the people here that live here don't understand what took place, you really can't get a good idea of the layout. And I know the lower basement part, we were trying to get a good understanding of the layout because of the flames underneath. We had crews in one area, there were no flames, but yeah, we had flames coming out of another area and we couldn't get to.
Great. Well, thanks a lot, Corky. I'm with Dave Talley. Captain Dave Talley he's been around the block more than a few times. Now, Dave, we're going to talk about the fire cams and the importance of fire cams and how they work and how would you use them in a fire like this?
Well, a fire cam is actually a thermal imaging device, and what it does is it shows up a lighter color for a hotter image.
Okay.
So if there is, for instance, if an unfortunate situation arose where there was a human body on the floor,
right,
and you show them this across.
So this would be the screen that you're going to look at.
That's correct. So you point it like that actually, and you're looking at the screen, and you would see the outline of whatever's the warmest around. For instance, if the atmosphere is so hot that the body is cooler, it would show up dark, but we would still see the outline of it.
So you'll actually see the person on the ground.
That's correct. Just see the outline of them. And so what we used it for today is when I went in the basement here, we thought that there might have been flames or fire down there because somebody saw something in a vent from above. I went into the apartment down below and we looked all around the walls. We saw nothing, which is kind of confusing as I did see something below them, but I believe there's a crawl space in front.
Sure.
But there was no heat that we could detect or smoke or anything down there.
But these work great for finding those hidden fires.
These things are excellent. They're a great tool for the fire service. We're glad to have them.
Great. Well, thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Jim.
A lot of fires are preventable. This call came in as an explosion in a bathtub of all things. Well, it turned out what happened was someone was trying to thaw out the pipes, which are frozen, it's wintertime, with a blowtorch. Very problematic. What happens is if you use an open flame to thaw out pipes, you can actually cause a fire to occur in the walls, and that's exactly what happened. Fire started in the walls and spread through the walls and all the way up into the attic. If you do have to thaw your pipes, you want to use something like an electric heat gun or a hair dryer or maybe even warm water. It might take a little longer, but it's a safe way to do things.
Welcome to the Fire Institute of Technology. This is where we're going to answer those tougher questions that you got on your mind. Maybe explain how some stuff on the fire ground works. We just came from this fire now. We're down at Phillips Avenue, big fire, and we start talking about the buildings. And how do we know for our firefighters where they're operating on buildings? You know, how's this all work? Well, let's say, and this is pretty simple stuff. We want to keep it simple so that when we have the crisis of a fire going on, we got a lot of communication going on, we want to keep everything as simple as possible. That way, we don't have to worry about, you know, confusion on that fire ground. The first thing is we have our building. We're going to start simple and go a little more in depth. This is the address side. We name our buildings the same way. We start with, and this is, let's say this is the street. We call our address side the alpha side. And we just go clockwise. Bravo side, Charlie, Delta. So we come up to a structure and we have fire on this side. The report will be fire is showing from the Bravo side. Now another thing we never do, we're talking on radios. We're talking through masks sometimes. We don't want to say fire is showing from the B side, because when I have a mask on, B might sound like D, especially when we have sirens, air horns going on. So we always say Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Alpha. Again, clear communications. If we want crews to look at an exposure, we can even say if we have an exposure on this side, we can say the Charlie, Delta side. And we know right away we're talking about this side of the structure. Same thing we have is when we have crews operating, they might be the Bravo division or the Bravo exposure. Makes things very simple. Another thing we do, again, trying to make sure we know where our people are, what's going on. When we start having high-rise structures or multiple floor structures, and this is going to be a building, not to scale. We have a street here. We have a multiple story building. We have crews operating on these stories, and let's just say they're operating now on, this is the first, second, third, fourth, fifth story. We start designating those floors as divisions. So when we start putting crews up on third floor, we designate them Division 3. So all our firefighters that are working in Division 3 are going to be handling rescue, ventilation, some of those other things we talk about on a fire ground. But when we have problems, the fire ground commander, that incident commander, is going to know right where the problem is. If he's starting to say, we've lost a firefighter, or a firefighter's fallen through the floor, this is Division 3 calling, we had a firefighter go to the floor, we know where to start looking for that firefighter right away. Those RIT teams we talk about, rapid intervention teams, are going to start looking on second floor. Also, when we start looking at moving up and down buildings, as crews move up, we just change our designation. Fire's out here, we got that out. It's up on 4th, Division 3. Go to 4th floor, you're now called Division 4. So that's how we kind of do these things. It makes communication simple. Now, granted, when we teach our firefighters, this is major concepts. What do we do when we have multiple buildings? But this is the basics for you to learn. And when you hear us talking about divisions, when you hear us talking about the sides of buildings, you're going to know exactly what we're talking about. So keep those good questions coming in. This question comes from Sasha. Sasha is 4 years old and lives in Arlington, Massachusetts. Sasha wants a shout out to the Arlington Fire Department in Arlington, Massachusetts, and has a great question. Now, Sasha is a regular viewer. Sasha is a thoughtful and careful viewer because Sasha has a lot of questions. Sasha wants to know, do hose fire hose still has to be dried, and why in the November 6, 2006 episode, there was no hose tower in the new building? Great question, Sasha. And to answer that question, you ready, Brooke?
I'm ready.
Brooke Van Gundy, firefighter extraordinaire.
Yep.
What's the deal, Brooke? We've been telling everybody we used to hang hose for years and years.
Yep.
Hose towers were built.
Yep. A lot of the older hose had a cotton jacket on the outside, so that needed to be hung up and dried. And we had hose towers, which we hung that up in and dried.
And if we didn't dry it, it would basically that natural fiber would rot.
Yeah.
Okay.
When you stick in the hose bed, it stays in there and stays wet. So, and the new stuff is a synthetic material, which doesn't need to be dried.
Okay.
So
we have to have less hose, really, because we don't have to have a whole bunch of it sitting in the hose tower.
You don't have to have extra that's sitting up there drying.
Now, in your years of firefighting, how many years?
Actually 4.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
There's going to be a round of steaks for the crew for your anniversary?
Yeah, tonight.
Okay.
Yep.
Am I in?
Sure.
Okay. Medium rare?
Perfect.
Have you noticed any difference between using the old hose and the new hose?
I haven't noticed much difference. Didn't use a lot of the old hose, but it is a lot easier to maintain and clean up. And
sure. And it also doesn't kink as often, too.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Well, Brooke, thanks for your answers, and we appreciate your help.
Thank you.
Pat Duffy's going to answer the next 2 questions. Ready, Pat?
Yes, I'm ready.
These are tough.
Alrighty.
Both these questions are about the same type of questions. One's from Tyler. Tyler lives in New Haven, Connecticut. And the other one is from Blake, and Blake lives in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. We got to answer those questions. And they both want to know, what's a RIT team and what do they do? Okay, Pat.
Alrighty, I think I can get these. The RIT team, that stands for a Rapid Intervention Team, and what they do is when they get on scene, they will stage by the entrance and other points throughout the building, on the exterior of the building, to be ready in case any firefighters that are doing interior attack or interior search, they will be ready to rescue them if they go down. If the floor collapses and they have to go in and save them, if they run out of air, they'll be ready to enter the structure and rescue fellow firefighters that may go down. So
this team is really just set up just for the firefighters when they're in that situation that something could get hurt or they could be in danger.
Yep, that is correct. They will be ready with all their own equipment. They have all backup equipment, lines, extra air bottles, and they'll be ready to go in to rescue the people that are doing the rescue, the fellow firefighters.
And have you been on the RIT team before?
I have, yes.
And they also track where everybody's at through the building?
That is correct. They'll track when people go in, how long they've been in. They keep track of time to make sure that the people haven't run out of air in there, the other firefighters, and they will be tracking when people exit as well. So we have everybody accounted for at all times.
That is a great answer, Patrick, and I appreciate your help.
Sounds good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
This next question comes from Peter. Peter lives in Maplewood, Minnesota, and he wants to know, how do we determine the life expectancy of equipment? And with me is Division Chief Pat Warren. Pat and I work a long time together. Pat, you know the answers to all these questions.
Well, the answer to that question depends on the type of equipment it is. Fire trucks, for example, vary anywhere from 12 years to 20 years, depending on the type of truck.
Okay.
We try to make our hose last for 20 years, but structural turnout gear may only last 6 or 7 years.
Based on just the usage and the wear out?
Exactly right.
Now, are there standards, or do we just look at our history of replacing equipment?
We look at the maintenance costs of the equipment, if it becomes too expensive to maintain, if it's breaking down too often, or if it just isn't usable anymore.
Okay. Well, great. Well, thanks, Pat. I was hoping there'd be more to that answer, though.
Well, the one thing we should probably put a lifespan on is fire call hosts.
I knew it. Got a bunch of questions, and we're going to introduce Don Hill. Don, it's good to have you back.
Glad to be here.
Got a lot of questions for you. You ready?
I am.
This first group of questions, there's 4 people sent this question in, and the first one's from Cody in Hope Mills, North Carolina, and Ryan in Steelton, Pennsylvania. I wonder if that's close to Eagle Country.
I don't know. Should be.
Aaron in Sioux Falls, and also from Caden in Fargo, North Dakota. And they want to know, Don, what's the difference between the ranks of the fire department from your rank all the way down?
Well, let's start with the most important rank, the firefighter rank.
Okay.
Firefighter is the position that our people start on. The people who drive the trucks, that's a promotion up from firefighter.
Okay.
They're called fire apparatus operators. And then the supervisor of a crew is called a fire captain. Battalion chief is the next rank above that, and battalion chiefs are in charge of incidents when you have more than one crew responding.
Okay, more than one station showing up.
That's right. We also have division chiefs. That's primarily an administrative position, dealing with all the things that we have to deal with budget and oversight of the department. And then the fire chief is above that.
Okay.
We also have inspectors who work in our fire prevention bureau, and we have about 10 civilian employees as well.
And then the training staff.
And our training site, but they are one of the other ranks.
Sure.
Each of those people is one of those other ranks.
Okay. Two people wrote this question. One's from Carrie in Canastota, South Dakota, and David from Herborn, Ohio. And they want to know about education. Should they go through college to be a firefighter? Do they need to go through college to be a firefighter with Sioux Falls Fire Rescue? And should they get a degree in fire science to be a firefighter? And what's your advice for someone seeking college?
Well, first of all, I think college is a good idea. I think with the competition for firefighter positions, it's important to get a good general education. Fire science is one option, but we have a lot of people who apply here and do very well on our entrance exams and do very well as firefighters who do not have fire science degrees. They can come with a variety of other experiences, but I would definitely recommend a good general education
Especially
to be
when
a
they
firefighter.
promote too, that's going to help them kind of a broad background of things.
The higher you get in rank, the better a good, well-rounded education for you is.
You bet. This one comes from Lavy, and Lavy lives in Great Neck, New York. And what they would like to know is, would it help a person's chances of becoming a firefighter for Sioux Falls Fire Rescue if they had some sort of military training in the past?
Well, military training is good because a lot of people are firefighters, and plus you learn some discipline things, and it helps you mature as a person. As far as the testing goes, if you have two people who are equally qualified, the person with military service gets preference over another person.
Okay. And we do have quite a few veterans on too. This question comes from Dan. Dan lives in Mount Baldy, California, and he wants to know how many firefighter applicants does Sioux Falls Fire Rescue get per hiring session?
We test every couple of years, and we get about 600 applicants for firefighter. And we might hire anywhere from 15 to 30 depending on the retirements that we have and whether or not we're hiring for additional stations.
And he didn't ask this, but do you think being a local person has any advantage of being from California?
No, we don't take that into account at all when we hire for firefighter. We're looking for the best candidates, best suited candidates to be firefighters.
And this is, I think, the last question, Don. And it is from Jason. Jason lives in Fort Washington, Maryland. And he wants to know, as a population of a city grows like Sioux Falls, what demand does that put on paid departments to grow? And how does Sioux Falls look at growth?
Well, Sioux Falls is growing at a rate of about 2 to 3% per year, which is good, steady, healthy growth. And at that rate, in Sioux Falls, we need to add a fire station about every 4 years or so, give or take. That also is influenced by the new area of the city and how large of an area we are taking in. So Sioux Falls has been adding fire stations and will continue to do so in the future. We're opening a station next year, which will not require additional staff. But after that, in 2011, we're planning to construct another station, and we'll be budgeting for 15 additional positions for that station.
And then how far out are you looking as chief? How far out do you plan for stations when you look at the city growth?
Sioux Falls has a 2035 map, and we're looking at where the station should be located right now for those years.
Wow. Okay. Well, great. Well, thanks, Don, and glad to have you back.
Okay.
Hey, I'm glad you stayed with us. We were going to ask the crew of Station 1 some questions, and they just went on a call. My luck. Have a couple more shout-outs, and this one's from Landon. Landon wants a shout-out to the Apollo Hose Company number 2, Station 20 in Apollo, Pennsylvania. And the / shout-out goes to Randy. Randy lives in Granite Falls, Minnesota, and wants a shout out to the Wilmer Fire Department in Wilmer, Minnesota. I've driven through that town an awful lot going up to Little St. Cloud and Little Falls. And you ask a question, you get a shout out, send you our super duper Sioux Falls Fire Rescue t-shirt. And if you're interested in becoming a firefighter, we're always looking for the best people to come to Sioux Falls and become firefighters. And you can go on our website and also find out more information about being a firefighter. And we're always looking for great people. Last but not least is at the end of the show following this, you're going to see all the fallen firefighters for this month. And we really, our hearts go out to them and their families and for their dedication and service they've given to everybody. My name is Division Chief Jim Sideras, and you've been watching Fire Call.